Before I was a neurosurgeon, I was a soldier. And I remember I learned a lot of lessons. I when airborne school, I think I was dropped for more push-ups than any human being in the face of the earth because I didn't understand. So here's a kid from the Bronx who ends up at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Okay, I didn't understand Southern lingo at all. I didn't know that pickup trucks came standard equipment with gun racks. I had no idea about how the South it was. And so here I was, and the airborne and air assault sergeants are screaming orders on you. And I didn't understand the lingo as well as, and that's where I did basic and then went to airborne school. And so I was certainly abused more than the average. I ended up graduating third in the class because I realized, okay, you start last, you only have a way to go up, and I just worked harder and tried harder. But some of my most humbling events were in 1990. Of course, I was deployed with the 18th Airborne Corps to Iraq. And I'm standing, and I was in the 18th Airborne Corps. The commanding general was General Luck. And we were about to do an end on around in Iraq, and I'm standing on the border. I'm watching the Special Operations Commandos go across and plant laser beams so that the bombs can come down and bomb them. And who flies in but General Schwarzkopf? So I'm sitting there with like a moron. Here I am by this time a neurosurgeon, and he lands with his entourage because they're going to do this end on around with the 24th Mechanized Infantry Division, the 101st Airborne's there, and he goes, "Who are you?" And I said to him, Major Ellenbogen, and yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. And he turned to me and he said, "What are you?" And in the speak, as Stacy and Ryan know, the speak is military speak, and I was a 61 Zulu. Okay, a 61 Zulu means a neurosurgeon. And Schwarzkopf looks at me, and then he looks at General Luck and he says, "Essential, but totally useless." And I sat there and I turned to General Luck and he goes, "As a soldier, what he means is you're essential for the morale of the soldiers if they get wounded, but you're totally useless in the attack on Iraq." Okay. He says, "You are an anchor." Okay, you are. So I said, "Yeah, no, I get that." And so sometimes I tell my residents, essential, but totally useless, because one of the problems we have as neurosurgeons is we begin to believe our own press. We begin to believe we are neurosurgeons. And the humility is important to remember. This may be the most fun operation you're doing. This is a great procedure, but this is the worst day of the patient's life. I mean, the day that they're getting a coil put in their brain, or even though it's going to save their life, or what I was doing this morning, operating on a person who bled into their head, that was the worst day of her life. She was a 30-year-old social worker. And although this was great for me and my resident, and we got to save her and this, that, the other thing, don't ever believe that, okay? Believe, be humble, be kind, and remember the things that you're doing that save people's lives on the worst day of their life. And maybe you get to go home. I'm going to get to go home after today. So that was one of the lessons that I learned about humility and humor, and General Schwarzkopf telling me that I was essentially useless. And I use that term all the time. And the worst, and I had a military career maybe different than Stacy or Ryan, because I remember I was insulted nonstop, and it made me a stronger person. When I became a doctor, one day the nurse calls me up And at Walter Reed, there's something called the Gold Coast. It's where the president goes. It's where all the senators and congressmen go. It's where, if you're a 3 or 4-star general, you go. And it's a special ward. It's called Ward 72. And it is really great. And one day, one of the nurses at night called me up and she said, Dr. Ellenbogen, listen, I have General Johnson, who was the commander during Vietnam. He served with MacArthur in the Philippines. He survived the Bataan Death March. Okay. He was one that MacArthur left behind. And he was one of the, few thousand people that survived the worst torture ever, the Bataan Death March. She said, I need your help getting him out of the tub. He was dying of cancer. And so I went up to his room and I said, sure, I'll help you get him out of the tub. And I go in there and I said, General Johnson, I'm Major Ellenbogen, I'm here to help you, blah, blah, blah. And so I go to pick him up and he's wet. It's like a little baby. If you've ever, I have 3 children and, you ever have a slippery little baby, gosh, I can't tell you how many times I've almost dropped my kids, but I didn't. But I did drop General Johnson right into the tub. Okay, 4-star general, survives Bataan. He looks at me, he goes, Major, I survived the Bataan Death March, but I will not survive you. And I swear to God, I said, oh my God, that is to this day, the best insult any patient has ever given me. And I think about that all the time. And I think, it gives me humility. I don't care what the save is. I don't care whose life I saved. I remind myself, do not believe this press. Okay. You almost killed the man that survived the Bataan Death March. And so one of the things that I would recommend medical students and residents do is they gain a sense of humor and humility to survive what we do, because we do some really tough things and some really horrible things. And it's really horrible for the patients, but we save lives. It's the best field in the world. I can't believe they even pay us to do this. It's pretty crazy that they pay us to do this because it's so good. It's so much fun, but be humble. Those are my stories of humility. I'm sorry they're not great stories about how I saved, ran across the fields and got blown up or anything like that, but that was it.
Hey everyone, Ryan Rad here from neurosurgerytraining.org. If you like that video, subscribe and donate to keep our content available for medical students across the world.